Let's talk about Starfield specs and the latest comments by Phil Spencer regarding more powerful Xbox Series X. Let's look into this. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So first off, let's start with some Starfield news. Okay, so Starfield is available for pre-order right now on Steam and Xbox Store, and looks like these pre-orders are actually doing pretty good. A lot of people are actually buying a game, despite the fact that Starfield will be available in Game Pass, both PC and Xbox Game Pass, day one. Which is funny because a lot of people oftentimes tell me that, games don't really sell well because they are on Game Pass and people just want to play these games for free. And you know what, like obviously that will apply to certain people. There's a lot of people that will just play it on Game Pass and forget about the game, and some people don't even buy games. But there's also a lot of people that actually do buy their games. Sometimes they use Game Pass too, sometimes they don't, right? And the thing about Game Pass, in my understanding, is that like if a game is good, it will do well on both Game Pass, so a lot of people will play it, but it will also sell well too, because it's all about good product, right? At the end of the day, right? I mean, some people will give it a try on Game Pass and then maybe they will decide to buy it. Some will hear some good opinions from other people's that actually played the game or tried that game via Game Pass, and they will just go and buy it, because not everyone is into Game Pass, and I get it. Like it's just like with Netflix and any other subscription service, right? Not everyone is subscribed to Netflix, right? Some people just still go to cinema, still buy DVDs or Blu-rays, whatever, right? So it's the same with games, right? I mean, people still buy games, and it looks like Starfield is actually doing pretty well when it comes to pre-orders, and the game is coming out in September, so it's still a long way to go when it comes to release date, right? And I mean, this Starfield will still be selling long after that game launches. Like it's just like with Skyrim. I mean, Skyrim is in Game Pass too, and a lot of people actually still buying this game right now. I mean, you know what? I actually own 2 or 3 copies of Skyrim, I think, like on Xbox, on PC and stuff, right? So it is what it is, guys. But it's good to see that there's actually a lot of interest in Starfield. Looks like Starfield Direct actually did help this game a lot when it comes, because there was a lot of criticism towards Starfield, and after Fallout 76, there was a group of people that were doubting that Bethesda can deliver a good game again. But yeah, I mean, obviously we still don't know whether Starfield will be a good game or not, but judging by what they shown during the Starfield Direct, it looks like it's really going to be a good game. So obviously that's the sales and pre-order kind of thing, and a little bit about Game Pass, which these conversations always cracks me up really when it comes to people worry, oh, how will Microsoft make money on it? I mean, who gives a shit really, right? Do you want to play this game or not, right? You want to pay for it or not? You want to pay it and play it. If you don't want to if you don't want to pay a full price, just play it on the Game Pass. Who gives a shit if Microsoft makes money or not, right? It's not your concern. It shouldn't be really, right? But anyway, let's talk about specs, because, obviously the whole 30 frames per second on consoles controversy, it's still kind of is going on really on Twitter and social media really. I give up on it because at the end of the day, it is what it is. I'll probably just play on PC, for better performance and stuff. And I did check system requirements for this game on PC, and we've got some interesting, well, numbers here. Okay, so obviously Windows 10 and 11, that's normal. Processor, for minimum requirements, they've got here Ryzen 5 2600X and Intel Core i7-68K. So these are not the latest CPUs, right? And I know we're talking about minimum specs over here. I'll talk about recommended. And the problem with the Steam is that they don't necessarily say whether minimum specs are for like medium settings, 1080p, 30 frames per second or 60. I like these kind of cool charts, like Cyberpunk Phantom thing got announced, and they actually shown the like a nice table with a breakdown of like specs for any particular kind of resolution and ray tracing mode and settings and that kind of stuff, so you know what to expect, right? With this one, like the minimum specs, all it tells you is that like if you've got PC like that, you will be able to play that game. Whether it's going to be at medium, low, high settings, what resolution, what frame rate, we don't know, right? But the interesting thing is that it requires SSD, right? So you can still try to play this game off of mechanical drive, hard drive, but yeah, good luck with that, really. And I think right now, I mean, these SSDs, like even SATA SSDs, are getting so cheap that it makes no sense to buy a mechanical drive for gaming. I mean, for storage, that's fine, right? But gaming, not really, and operating system and stuff. So so that's the CPU. Graphics card, Radeon RX 5700 and NVIDIA GeForce 1070 Ti. Not the latest AMD cards either. So minimum specs are not really that high. Storage 125 gigabytes of available space, and this is a DirectX 12 game. I wonder, it's actually interesting because like DirectX 12 plus the fact that they require SSD, that may point to a fact that hopefully this game will use direct storage on both Xbox and PC. On Xbox it will use that for sure, but PC, let's hope that's going to be the case as well. Although they, at the same time, they say Windows 10. I'm not sure if direct storage is on Windows 10. I will have to double check. Anyway, recommended specs. So AMD Ryzen 5 3600X. So this actually CPU is very close to what Xbox Series X S comes with, right? I know this is a 6-core CPU, but it offers more cache, it offers higher clock speeds, so it kind of balances out when it comes to performance, right? Intel i5 10600K, so like 3 generations back kind of CPU too. So like these are like mid-range kind of CPUs for recommended specs, and I don't want to guarantee anything, but I would bet that recommended specs are at least for 1080p 60 frames per second, if not more, right? When it comes to graphics, we've got AMD's Radeon RX 6800 XT and NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2080. So here's an interesting thing, because that Radeon card seems to be way more powerful than GeForce RTX 2080. So I'm not sure what that's all about. Maybe it's for ray tracing. Who knows, right? AMD tends to have are less performant when it comes to ray tracing, I guess, right? And Todd Howard did say that they are using global illumination, but I'm not sure if that's a software solution or ray tracing, hardware accelerated. We don't really know. The interesting thing is that NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2080, that's like Xbox Series X, PlayStation 5 level of performance kind of graphics card. So See, that's why I've got a problem with the fact that that Starfield is going to be locked to 30 frames per second at 4K on Xbox Series X. Listen, I get it. Xbox Series S, there may be not enough of juice when it comes to graphics card, maybe memory, who knows. But this game will run on Xbox Series S at 1440p too, so that's not too shabby. But when it comes to Xbox Series X, like, why not offer 1080p mode at 60 frames per second, even with some drops here and there, right? Like, at the end of the day, a lot of people can just turn on VRR and FreeSync, and we'll be good, right? But like I said, I'm done talking about it. I'm just looking at the specs right now. So yeah, that's the specs for Starfield, and interesting stuff here. So anyway, okay, so enough of Starfield talk. I'm sure we'll cover Starfield way more in the future, because there's a ton of stuff to talk about when it comes to Starfield. I can't wait to play this game, by the way. Let's move on and let's talk about Xbox Series X Pro or Elite, or however you really want to call it, right? I mean, obviously, I'm talking about like more powerful Xbox Series X. So there's been a lot of rumors about the fact that Sony is working on PlayStation 5 Pro. Insider Gaming, Tom Henderson, he's been covering this for a very long time. And obviously, when you hear all these rumors, like leaks really, because, that's still a rumor, but, Tom Henderson has a very good track record of these things when it comes to PlayStation. By the way, he was the first one to leak that PlayStation 5 kind of like handheld thing they announced a couple of weeks ago. Tom Henderson leaked that. So it looks like there's a ton of other PlayStation hardware coming pretty soon too. Maybe not necessarily this year, but maybe next year. And so if he was right about that handheld device, he may be right about PlayStation 5 Pro being in development. So if that's the case, then looks like making Xbox Series X Pro, or however you really want to call it, would make sense. And there's some interesting comments by Phil Spencer. I think during Bloomberg, an interview with Bloomberg over here. Xbox boss Phil Spencer has said a potential mid-cycle upgrade for Xbox Series X isn't a priority for Microsoft, right? Asked whether Xbox plans to release a more powerful Xbox Series X console, Microsoft's head of gaming told Bloomberg he doesn't feel an imperative to do so. So here's the actual quote. "That's not the feedback we are getting right now," he said. "Right now we are pretty set on the hardware we have." And listen, I get it, right? I understand why he said that. So first off, like people saying, oh, Phil Spencer said that there won't be any there won't be any Xbox Series X upgrade or Pro or Elite, however you really want to call it, are wrong. I mean, he didn't say that. He did not say that there won't be any upgrades in the future. All he said, what he said. That's not the feedback we are getting right now, which I'll get back to that in a minute. Right now, we are pretty set on the hardware we have. Okay, so there's a couple of things we need to talk about here. So first off, he said that's not the feedback we are getting right now. And if you look at some Twitter polls or some other, like, on websites, these gaming websites actually do these polls once for a while, asking people for stuff, about stuff, not for stuff. And like they also ask people if they would love to see like PlayStation 5 Pro or Xbox Series X Pro. And well, most people were not interested in these kind of consoles for a couple of reasons. One, we are still in the, pretty, this is still early in generation. And, the fact that COVID kind of delayed everything like games and stuff, like, yeah, we really haven't really seen a lot of proper next-gen games yet, right? And I think that that's why people don't need Xbox Series X Pro or PlayStation 4 Pro just yet. And like, if you look at some of the games that Microsoft's shown recently, I mean, look at how Fable looks. Like, it looks beautiful, and it's in-game kind of footage. Like, not necessarily the actual gameplay per se, like over the shoulder, behind the back, that kind of stuff, right? But that's the game running on Xbox Series X. By the way, that was confirmed by developers. If you look at Hellblade 2, if you look at Star Wars, that new Ubisoft game by Massive Entertainment, I forgot, the Outlaws, I think it's called. Like, did you see that game? Like, did you see how good that game looks? That's next gen. Well, current gen, really. So if you look at that, and I understand that people don't necessarily feel a need for like a new consoles per se, because they haven't really gotten any proper next-gen experiences for like current gen boxes yet, right? So I understand why Phil said that, because like people don't need that just yet. But I think that like it started shifting a little bit recently, because like I think that after a couple of games released in last couple of months, and yes, some games got patched while others were not patched. Like Gotham Knights is still 30 frames per second on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. But then again, Starfield is going to be locked to 30 frames per second. There's this Final Fantasy 16 demo available, and the game is launching in like 2 weeks. So there's not really a lot of time for optimization. And when you see that game running at performance mode, it drops frames like a lot of times like below 50, sometimes even down to like 35, 3 frames per second in performance mode, right? So that just goes to show that, like some of these games are just going to be locked to 30 frames per second, or some of these games will be better played in like quality mode locked to 30, because performance mode is just not there, right? I mean, it's there, but it's not delivering consistent performance, right? So it's fine when you've got a performance mode and, I guess the frames like wobble between, 50 and 60 and that kind of stuff. That, that can be, you can live with that, right? Especially if you, not necessarily without VRR, but with VRR, you can live with that, right? But like drops below 50, below 40 sometimes, that's not really a good experience. And, another game like Jedi Survivor, right? Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Yes, it has a performance mode, but it in performance mode, it drops like, it runs on average at 45 frames per second on both Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5. That's not really a good performance mode. So what I'm trying to say is that there's probably going to be more and more games like that, more demanding and stuff. And I think that people at some point will say, okay, so in order to really have that 60 frames per second experiences on these consoles, we need more powerful versions of them, right? Because people still believe that, yes, there's these RDNA 2 features and all these other features, but these features will boost performance just by a bit, right? You can kind of like all these features together may give you a bigger boost, maybe 20-30% overall, right? But that's still, with some more powerful, more demanding games, that's not going to be enough probably. And that's where like maybe not next year, but like 2025, you know, we may actually see these more powerful consoles, both PlayStation 5 Pro, although Insider Gaming claims that this console will be available next year, late next year. So who knows, maybe especially if PlayStation releases this console, if PlayStation releases PlayStation 5 Pro, I mean, I don't see why Xbox wouldn't do it either like a year later. Now, the fact that Phil Spencer says that they are not interested, there's no need for these consoles right now, doesn't necessarily mean that there won't be a need for these consoles 2 years from now, right? Like I said, end of 2025, why not? Unless Xbox wants to shorten this generation, because like if they've got plans for proper next generation Xbox, if they want to release this in next 3 years, then obviously these upgraded consoles wouldn't make sense. But I don't think that's going to happen. And there's been some documents that leaked out from, I think, CMA or FTC, I can't remember, where they were talking about like next generation, like and there were some dates around 2028. So that's probably end of 2028. So really 2029. So it's 2023, so we are at least 5-6 years from next generation. That's a long time. So these consoles launched at the end of 2022. So end of 2028, that's like, yeah, pretty much 8 years, right? That's a long time for hardware, and I think it makes sense. It will make sense in the future. So I understand why Phil Spencer says what he said, you know, the other day about these consoles. But I think like it's going to change in next 2 years, right? Especially if PlayStation releases their console, their upgraded PlayStation 5. PlayStation 5 Pro, as they call it, right? So anyway, guys, so that's all I've got to say today when it comes to these stuff. Let me know what you think about it. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care.